Welcome back to the Court Storm College Hoops Talk podcast, which you can find right here on the Court Storm Media Network. My name is Kanaye, and I'm joined with Josh. And today we are bringing you guys a preview for a top 15 matchup between the St. John's Red Storm. We're coming in at number 5. Really good showing against Quinnipiac on opening night. They are playing the number 15 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. Really good showing for them against North Dakota on their opening night as well. Should be a really high-scoring game. Both teams have a lot of offensive firepower if they're on. Definitely curious to see where this game goes, and we'll give you guys our preview, what we think will end up transpiring in this game to come Saturday. But before we get into that, if you like this podcast or anything else you see on the Court Storm Media Network, please engage with the videos in any way you can, whether it's liking, subscribing, or just telling other people about what we do here. Goes a long way with growing the Court Storm channel overall. So let's get right into it. Josh, I'll ask you first. Immediate feelings going into this game.
This is a great start to the season for both squads. You're getting your actual chance to really punch your number in and make a name for yourself as the big new program, so to speak, on the block. I mean, Alabama's really come into their own the past half decade with Nate Oates, and Pitino's now really leading the way for St. John's. I think another good start to a possibly championship season for both squads is on the table here. Probably more for St. John's than anybody else, which is why I think this game matters more for them. This is a home game. This is a Madison Square Garden game that I think will finally be a true home game. I mean, Kanaye is not long gone, but not really the place it used to be for St. John's. This team has really come into their own the past 2 years, and I genuinely feel like it's going to be pumped. This place is going to be packed on Saturday at noon, which I hate the timing. I really wish this was like a night game. I think the environment would be wonderful.
Definitely.
But you know what? A game is a game, and as long as it's not a Saturday, there'll be people ready to watch it and ready to play for it. And obviously, meaning you have to wake up and watch on the block for most of the Johnny's fans is not that big of a deal. Alabama, this is a big test. I don't know the last time they've even been to Madison Square. It's one of the hardest arenas to play in general. And if St. John's really packs the crowd, this will be a true test for Nate Oates' young squad.
Yeah, Kanaye, decent energy on opening night. I mean, I got to say, I think more than usual just because, that I forget if they did it before or after the game. The players from last year received their Big East championship ring, so that was a nice little ceremony they did. Rick Pitino had a nice speech to the Johnny's fans. Nonetheless, doesn't matter time, noon, 8 p.m. The place should be bumping in MSG with primarily red and navy St. John's colors. I'm really excited for this game. From what I was able to take away of St. John's first game against Quinnipiac on opening night, I think it was good seeing Ian Jackson finally get going offensively. Granted, it was a pretty Ian Jackson stat line, if you will, with 15 points, no assists, 1 rebound. But he shot 100% from the floor. Dylan Mitchell just continues to really excel in his role, playing under Rick Pitino right now. He's definitely someone that I didn't necessarily expect to start for the Johnnies this year, but it seems like he's proven that he has to be on the court for as much as possible. And he's really lived up to a lot of the talking points that Rick Pitino's made regarding Dylan Mitchell over the offseason. And Bryce Hopkins has been good. Zuby Ejiofor. Dylan Darling, I thought played really well playmaking-wise. I forget how many assists. I want to say like maybe 5 or 6 in the game against Quinnipiac. Alabama coming off a really solid win. I mean, they nearly won by 30 against North Dakota. LeBaron Philon could have been a lottery pick potentially in last year's NBA draft, decided to come back. He really seems like he's kind of in that Mark Sears alpha role for the Crimson Tide this season. Aiden Holloway did not play, but they still got good contributions with guys like Aiden Sherrell, Taylor Bowen, Houston Mallett, London Jameson. Overall, I think you know how Nate Oates runs his program. All offense, a small smidgen of defense. So I give the Johnnies the edge going in just because I think while they're not as good defensively as they were last year with the guards they had, Kadari Richmond, Davon Smith, RJ Lewis, I still think they're a much better defensive team than what Alabama is. And when you combine 2 firepower offenses and one team that has a pretty solid defense, I'm giving it to the team that has a better defense.
Yeah, no, I can definitely get behind that one. And it really is I want to call it mixed bag, but this is definitely a unstoppable force versus an immovable object type of battle, which I think is such a fun game to get in general because you don't really get games that are between a incredibly high-powered offense with a low-level defense and then a high-powered defense with a low-level offense. And honestly, St. John's doesn't even have bad offense this year. So I think they could really run the floor and put up a lot more points than originally expected. But I do feel like Alabama, despite having one of the best offenses in the country and will continue to have it going up to this game, will likely be stopped in many different ways. I feel like they're not winning the battle at the five. I do like Noah Williamson, but Zuby is perhaps the best center in the game right now. His
Right.
post look is really getting there. He can beat guys in the paint any way he pleases. And Williamson is lanky, but not big. Zuby's a big guy. You're not getting around Zuby. I think beyond that, they're not going to probably win the shooting battle, but they have better sharpshooters. I feel like obviously LeBaron Philon will be the guy to watch out for, but he's no Mark Sears. I really feel like LeBaron kind of is given the keys to a team that he doesn't deserve to have. And no offense to LeBaron, but he never really was the type of guy I personally felt could lead a team past maybe a Sweet 16. This St. John's team has like three of those guys. There are three LeBaron Philons on this team, in my opinion, and that's scraping the surface. So I really do feel like this could be bad for Alabama. They could get very easily and very quickly routed if the offense doesn't click immediately and the shots don't land.
I think it's going to be tough for Alabama to win. Of course, like for the reasons you mentioned and the reasons I spoke about earlier. I think their best chance to win is just them being able to get stops off the product of St. John's just not being fully developed in the half court offensively just yet. I still have concerns about their half court offense. It's clear Ian Jackson, point guard, has not worked out. It seemed like he was kind of in the doghouse already in the exhibition games. Think he got the start Monday night. I forget off the top of my head. But he shot the ball well, didn't do anything playmaking wise. Isaiah Sellers actually passed the ball really well in the first game. And of course, you have Dylan Darling, change of pace guard who can play make really well. We knew that at what he did in the Big Sky last year. So you have that dimension of a point guard coming off the bench. But I still think they're not a finished product by any means in the half court offense. I do expect them to get better as the season progresses. But this early on against this caliber of an opponent, Rick Pitino said a couple games back that, listen, we're ready for Quinnipiac. We're not ready for Bama or Kentucky just yet. So I'm excited. Again, I lean towards the Johnnies just because I like their defensive, what they have defensively over what Alabama has, which, again, defense is kind of non-existent in the NATO's program. But I do think this does have a chance to be a game where maybe there's not too much defense being played, because I do think St. John's has had lapses defensively at times from what we saw against Michigan. But they can force turnovers. Nonetheless, really does have a chance to be a shootout and should be a really exciting game overall.
Yeah, no, I definitely get behind that. It should still be a good one, even if it's not as close as originally advertised. I do feel like St. John's probably wins this by double digits, which I will make the call as specific as I can. I got Arizona correct, so I'm going to keep going with the correct predictions and make sure I get them as many times as I can.
Yeah.
And this one I feel very confident about. I really do feel like if it just wasn't at St. John's home arena and it just wasn't this early in the season, maybe I would say otherwise, but Bama has a lot more of the way to go than St. John's does, and I get there are more questions necessarily with St. John's, but those aside, the team is just better on paper and in the play. So I'm taking the Johnnies very confidently here.
Yeah, I'm also rolling Johnnies. We'll agree this time as opposed to our Arizona Florida predictions. But I'd probably put the line at 7.5. I'll say St. John's opens up as a 7.5 point favorite on their home floor against.
I think that's
Yeah, like you mentioned, I definitely think if they're shutting guys like LeBaron Philon, Aden Holloway, if he's healthy, which hopefully he is for this game, I think he will be playing. So if they just shut those guys down, easily could see it going to a double-digit lead for the Johnnies, like you talked about. But I think 7.5 is probably fair at this very moment right now. But I think that's going to take care of all of our insights going into this game between St. John's and Alabama. Really excited to see the Garden jumping for the first true time for St. John's. Again, St. John's has a real, true home court advantage now at MSG, which is great to see. It's great to see New York City have a huge presence in the sport. Until next episode, see you all next time.